Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another edition of the Grand Boulevard Coalition. I'm your host, Bomani Obadelli. This is a live show, 312-738-1060, 312-738-1060. Grand Boulevard Coalition is a coalition of community organizations located in the Grand Boulevard community that's focusing on prevention of underage drinking and drugging of youth in the community. Today, we are going to be talking about community collaborations with one of our great leaders in the Grand Boulevard community, Ms. Sandra Bivens of the 51st Street Business Association. And before we delve right into that, I just want to give you a little perspective of the boundaries of Grand Boulevard. It is 51st Street on the north, on the south, 35th Street on the south, the Dan Ryan east to Cottage Grove or the lake, depending on who's telling you the boundaries. Anyhow, some of us even extended to 55th Street, but that's neither here or there. The point of this matter is really talk about prevention and community collaborations. And again, like I said, my guest today is Ms. Sandra Bivens of the 51st Street Business 51st Street Business Association. Yes, and so, Sandra, let's get right into it. I mean, how long have you been executive director, if you will? It's a couple questions. So how long have you been executive director of the 51st Street Business Association, and how long has that association been established?
Well, we actually established ourselves in 2009, and we were ad hoc. At that time, I was out there running. I have a consultant firm, Alexis Business Ltd., and I was running some space and running the CHA elections.
Wow.
There was a series of break-ins that were going on in the businesses out there. So the businesses got together, and we met with the alderman, and the alderman has suggested that our best support is coming together as an association, working together collaboratively, so that way we have better protection for what was going on in that business, you know. So we actually incorporated in 2010. But as you know, I've been out in that area for the last 25, 30 years, organizing with the public housing residents, the community residents, you know, anybody that needs my services. I've been out there to try to work and assist and help change community. So we've been there since 2010, and that's why we ended up organizing that organization. But just because we call ourselves a business association does not mean that we just deal with businesses. We really are a community resource center. We work with the community. We work with the businesses. We work with anybody that needs our assistance, and we have the resources to help them or have the contacts to put them in a place where they can get some assistance.
Yeah, and so to that point, and quite, I think you're being a little bashful. I've known you for quite some time, but I would just say, how long have you actually been operating or working in the Grand Boulevard community, if you don't mind telling our audience?
I guess you could say I started back in '89 when I was working for CHA in Ida B. Wells. Because, you know, in Ida B. Wells we did we had a lot of great programs over there, and we did a lot of things to change Ida B. Wells before they eventually, of course, years later tore it down. But I've also worked with Stateway Gardens and Francie Washington, you know, so I've been out there a pretty long time.
Yeah. And so to that point, how do you rate coalitions and community partnerships when you look at the landscape of our community where we are? How do you rate community partnerships, and how effective do you think they are once established, Sandra?
I think we have always had some great community partnerships out there, as you well know, Obadelli. I mean, we work with centers, you know, we work with the Grand Boulevard Coalition, we work with all the groups that have been out there for a while and have even established themselves over the last years, like QCDC and even SECC. You have to throw them in the mix a little bit. You know,
Yeah.
I think that what people forget is that we always have collaborated together. But when new groups come in and they feel that they want to do something, they always say, oh, we got to create new collaboratives. They don't even look at the fact that many of us have been collaborating together for over 20 years. So they don't come back to the groups that have established themselves.
Right.
They want to come back and start something new, saying to the mayor, whoever, hey, we're going to do this because they're not doing it over there. And most of the time, that's not true.
Yeah.
We have great collaborations, and you know that all across the South Side.
Right. And so I would say, as we look at the landscape of prevention in young people and the crisis that we're facing with our young people, what do you see as the most critical state of affairs as it relates to young people in Grand Boulevard. I'm gonna keep it at Grand Boulevard. It can be young people in general because I think there's no different when it comes down to them. But since we mainly work in the Grand Boulevard community, Bronzeville community, what do you see as the most pivotal issue facing young people in the community?
I truly believe it's jobs, and it's interesting because just this week, with Sakoni Karanja, who does the MOT program in Bronzeville Abundance, we met with, at least in my office, about 20 of the brothers on the street. And I'm just saying the brothers on the streets.
Right.
And we know who they are. And the main thing, the reason they came, because they're looking for jobs. Now, some of them thought we were going to hire them for jobs right then and there, but it wasn't set up that way because we also was working with the SAFER program.
Yeah.
But we still at least had some of them that stayed and are willing to start the program. As a matter of fact, they're starting the program next Tuesday. So Coney's going to get the bus. We're going to get them down there, and we're going to track them and follow them through this program with SAFER to see how long it takes these brothers to get jobs. All of them are talking about jobs because they say they got kids, they got to pay rent. So, which means that that's very important to them.
Right.
And a lot of the younger kids are indoctrinated by the older kids because they don't have anything to do. Where are community centers? One park, one community center can't do the work when you're living in a community like Grand Boulevard.
Yeah.
It has 18,000 people, or probably 50% of 18,000 are children.
Yeah.
There's not enough community centers and parks in the area to accommodate the children. So we have to do more with the closing of these schools. We need to be opening them up as community centers. We need to have places for these kids to go. Like when we were young, you can go to the park and play chess, do dance, do swim. These kids have nothing, and you got to pay to use the park now.
Well, and interesting you say that because there were two places I went. I was either, or three places, I would say, they were, and one was intertwined. I was either at the Boys and Girls Club at 51st and Federal, inside the library, because there was some young girl over there that I liked, and her mother made her go to the library every day, so I went to the library specifically to try to tag up behind her. Or I was over at the at Beatrice Cafe Youth Service over on 50th in Indiana, where I learned to play instruments. Michael Henley was the teacher there, the instructor. So, and then later on, I kind of ventured down to Elliott Downey Youth Center. But I agree with you that and it was no charge then, so you could enroll, you can go in, you can drop into the centers. Now, unfortunately, the park district charges a fee. $10 or $15, and then you got to be enrolled, and most of the parents go online and register. So just latchkey children or really low-income parents who are working, it may not have these after-school programs readily available to them, which I'm going to dove into next since you are a business coalition, and we're talking about, again, this is a live show, 312-738. This is a Grand Boulevard Coalition, and we are talking to Ms. Sandra Bivens, who is the executive director, I hope I got your title correctly, of the 51st Street Business Association, and we're talking about prevention services in the Grand Boulevard community, specifically a drug-free community, and that means drug-free means free of underage drinking and alcohol. And so I'm going to delve right into this, Sandra, the businesses, liquor stores. Now, and I know this is a very touchy issue for a lot of folks, but the liquor stores and just businesses in general being responsible to the community. How do you see the businesses playing a role and their relationship with the community? What do you, as a president of an association or executive director of a business association, how do you feel, or what do you see the responsibility of businesses in the community? I'll just say that.
Well, that's what I say. Even though we're the 51st Street Business Association, I see myself as a community organization.
Yeah.
Because to me, understanding true community economic development, businesses and community have to work together. And that's one thing I'm really tough on with our businesses.
Okay.
So even our liquor stores. The first thing I talk to them about is how you have to change the look of who you are. How you can't, have your staff cussing in front of the kids and things like that when they walk into your stores. How that you had certain type of things. One thing that the alderman did help us with a couple of years ago was to make them stop selling certain size alcohol that brought the wrong kind of element into the facility.
You're talking about 40 ounces.
Yeah, 40 ounces, okay.
And that alderman would be Alderman
Pat
Dowd.
Yes, it was.
Right.
And,
Who's a great partner with Grand Boulevard Coalition, by the way.
She's a great partner with all of us, honestly. People say this, say that, but I can just say from what I know, she is a great partner to work with, And she really helped make some changes on 51st Street. And I think that it's important that we realize that all our communities, African American communities, they are multicultural communities.
Yeah.
Many of the others in our community have long-term relationships too.
Yeah.
I mean, like one of our businesses, his father is the consul general of Jordan. Been there 60 years.
Yeah, I didn't know that.
Yes.
Interesting.
Yes, so which means that so people still have some stakeholding areas in our communities, and what we have to do is pull them together, which is what we've been doing. And I think yes, we still got some ways to go, but I think if you look at 51st Street in 2010 when we started, and 51st Street where we are now,
Let me tell
it's
you.
a big difference.
Hey, listen, I got to tell you, without mentioning names of businesses, because we won't do that, but I will say this. If you drive down 51st Street from Michigan, right past Cottage Grove, I would think you'd be amazed. And I will say this, just plugging, there are quite a few new African-American owned businesses
Yes,
there, restaurant establishments. How do I know that? Take a look at me. I look like I'm Mr. Meal. And in fact, I had lunch from one of them today, on the corner of 51st and Prairie. Excellent food.
Excellent food.
Excellent food. So, I'm happy to see that because, I grew up on 51st Street.
Yeah.
I come off Federal, and that used to be a little store. I used to hustle pop bottles as a young person and take them to the corner delicatessen and turn them in for the 10 cents on the bottle. So,
And I would like to add too that 51st Street, people don't know this. Out of all the businesses on there, we got about, let's say, 35 businesses. At least 17 of them are African American owned, and at least I would say 8 to 10 of the properties are African American owned. So we're trying to maintain that.
Yeah.
We don't. I mean, it's nice to have new businesses come in and everything like that, but you don't want to bring in new businesses to the point that all your African American businesses from the community are no longer there.
Yeah.
It has to be a balance when you bring in business, and that's what we try to do, is try to keep a balance, So we still got our African Americans that are strong in the area, strong in property ownership, but at the same time working with the other multicultural groups that are in there too.
Yeah. Well, and as we talk about young people and we talk about prevention, Sandra, I'm just making a suggestion, and maybe you already encouraged this, but and I'm only speaking out of ignorance because I have not polled anyone and asked that question. But it would be nice to see if each business in that community would take a young person on each summer from the community, hire them, let them work for the summer, give them some work experience, mentor them along. That would be a nice thing. So I'm just making that suggestion.
No, and that I agree with you, and
Yeah.
this is something we do push as well. And sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't,
Yeah.
because even though the kids say, and not even kids, these are grown men and women, they want the jobs, but they have their preferences to how they want to take these jobs.
Yeah.
So which means we have to work with them very closely and let them know that you can't go in the door demanding. You go in the door, get your foot in the door, and build up.
Right.
But now, and that's the piece that we have to work on more.
Yeah.
And but we do just like I just recently, one young sister, she's going to start working for one of our daycares on 51st Street.
Yeah.
I mean, so that does happen,
Yeah.
and we do promote that, but we also try to prepare them for that particular situation. But then we have to remember that a lot of these businesses are still also mom and pop businesses too.
Correct.
So they hire from their families just
Right.
like we would hire from ours.
Indeed. I was just making a suggestion.
No, I
but-
think that's a great suggestion.
Yeah, and they tell me we got a caller. Caller, you're on the air.
Yes. Good afternoon, guys. How y'all
Good
doing?
afternoon.
Good evening, sir. How are you?
And I'm listening to the gentleman speak. I also remember those days. Back in the old day, we used to do the pop bottles, and you got 2 cents for a bottle. You got a nickel for a 2-liter, and you got 15 cents for a milk jug. Those seemed like those was the good old days. People wasn't like they are now. And I also came up, I was born right there on St. Lawrence, 50th and St. Lawrence. The building is still there. But again, you bring back memories, and once you start thinking about memories, and then you think about now, it seems like there was just a different world. It's just a different world.
Well, I think it definitely is. I would say to you, caller, as I look at the community, even though growing up in public housing, and thank you for your call, caller. I agree with you. Things are different, and I'll get back to that subject. But we got another caller that's on the air. Caller, you on the air?
Hi there. My question, my husband is a business owner in Pilsen, and recently he is working on an expansion of his business, and when he decided to do that, he had aldermen. The aldermen said that they have to basically let the community know. They hold a meeting and want to know if the community is okay with it, if they have any objections, things like that. Is that something that goes on in the Grand Boulevard Coalition as well? Because it kind of made me think about it when your guest mentioned making sure that there's equal amounts of businesses that are Black owned in the community. If the community gets a say in it, then you might be able to maintain.
Yeah, and thank you for your call. I'm gonna let Sandra
Yeah.
answer that. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. One thing I will say, Alderman Dow is very good about when she hear about new businesses coming in, talking to the community and making sure that they're fitting, someone is going to fit in. So, which means that if you already have so many of one type of business, you don't want more of those same type of business. You want to keep a mix and a balance because that way people will shop in your community. If you don't have a balance of what's needed in the community, then you end up losing your shoppers. You know, you lose your customers, and most of your customers are local people. So yes, we do look at that. We do look at what type of businesses are coming in, and if they fit the overall mix.
Yeah, and I would just say this to you, caller, when you talk about old memories. You know, I will say this, and I agree with you, and that's very important, and that's why it's important that even when in coalition building, when you need to try to work with your local elected officials, so that if a business wants to come into the community that the community doesn't think is right for the community, or you have businesses that are bad actors, and I will tell you this, thanks to the efforts of Alderman Dow and several other community groups, we've been able to close bad liquor stores and bad businesses who've had an adverse and a negative impact on the community, whether it was selling liquor and cigarettes to underage children. So we work with a great working relationship with also our police commander. Commander King is pretty much relatively new, but through the years, we've worked with the local elected officials, the police, and community people, and it takes that type of effort. And that's what we try to talk about. Communities, coalitions, and partnerships. But I just jogged my memory when you talk about 51st Street, Sandra. I get a little emotional because, I remember the time of going down 51st Street and Alderman Tyrone Kenner's office was there. There was a barbecue place, Mr. Heads. I used to clean up the Brown Derby that was over there. Now it's a daycare center. But I think the most fondest memory was going to Gino's and the tutoring program that he allowed to be around the corner, where I learned business skills from Michael Brownstein and the RAMP, the reading and math program that was on 51st and Calumet, along that whole square. So 51st Street was very meaningful and a very meaningful and a positive impact on my life. Now, I mean, it was some bad days too. Don't get me wrong.
Basically, those memories are so true because that's also how we're trying to build 51st Street and many of the areas in Brownsville and Grand Boulevard back is through that historical aspect of who we were. For instance, one thing we support, which we started years ago, is the Brown Derby Jazz Review. The Brown Derby is no longer there, but we utilize the Great Lakes Elks Lodge, which is Black owned, 100-year-old terracotta building. That ballroom holds 250 people, and they lease it for weddings and things like that. But every Thursday, we're doing live jazz and in that ballroom.
That means tonight?
Yes, that means tonight. But I live here.
All right.
Maggie Brown performs with us. Nanette Frank, Vince Willis. I mean, we have all kinds of Chicago talent. Because, see, if people forget, jobs are also jobs that our musicians are performing. They have to work too. Yeah. They have family to support. So which means we have to bring that back into the community too and keep our fellow musicians and local artists working. Yeah. Same way with we have our Bronzeville Jazz and Music Festival coming up August 19th, Saturday, August 19th, from 10 a.m. to 10 p.m. And we will have a kids corner with free backpacks going to the kids. The Black Cowboys will be out there. We're going to do tributes to Oscar Brown Jr. We'll have a tribute to Dr. Cedar Weber, and we're also going to do a tribute to Corky McKirkland.
Oh,
so
wonderful.
But those types of things we do is to bring the sense of community back to the neighborhood where people can feel safe and have comfortable, wonderful, pleasant days, Yeah. And it also brings new consumers.
Yeah, and I would say the only thing that is missing from 51st Street is our favorite community barber college at King's, and they would Mr. and Mrs. King was so great about assisting me for 8 years with free back to school haircuts. And hairdos for young boys and girls going back to school. I know they gave veterans and seniors in the community. They had those type of days, and so
but don't put them out yet, because I'm talking with her. She's trying to get some things together so they can get back, and then open.
Yeah, well, I hope they come back. They're really good people. They were really good people and good for the community. Yeah. But I would say so. When you look at moving forward, Sandra, to this present day and time, how do businesses in this and again, in this strange time of what we're dealing with, how do you feel that businesses can best be supportive of community people or community organizations and events? I mean, I know there are a lot of different moving parts or bodies of people that are forming groups or coming into the community, but as a long-time community resident, or a worker, I'm going to say you're resident, but if you do, you can say that. Both. But how do you see moving forth in this new day and time, businesses and community people working together?
Well, I think that what is important is that, like we used to do, where the businesses used to assist in starting the softball teams. Okay, the kids might not be interested in softball anymore, but whatever the kids it might be interested in, those are things we have to ask the business to contribute to. We as the community have to go to them and say, hey, this is what we're trying to do for the youth in the community. We're building up this budget. Can you give this? Because a lot of them might not give their time, but they will give their money. So sometimes that is a good thing. But also we have to look at the entrepreneur piece that we're trying to do a lot of, that I definitely support in the neighborhood, and getting our business, not just our businesses, but the property owners to begin to lease property at realistic rates. So sometimes that's a handicap to our businesses to be successful. So they can't even stay in the community to help strengthen the community. But one thing we have been looking at over the last couple of years is putting 2-3 businesses in a storefront together and sharing the rent. So we can bring, and now you're bringing back businesses that actually, with people that live in the community, understands the community, and want to give back to the community. And that's not to saying the other groups don't want to give back, but they're not as I'd say, because they don't live there. Sometimes they don't see the whole big picture, Yeah,
and that's like the pop-up business concept.
Yes,
right?
we did We did the first pop-up was on 51st Street with Brownsville Retail Initiative, and it was such a successful pop-up. And also our partner in that was Illinois Institute of Technology, and Monica Chatta, who worked with us on, is also working on the Obama Foundation development project. So we're doing a lot of things on 51st Street, but like you're right. We got to get the businesses even more involved. But I'm telling you, they are involved. They all give towards the festival. And when we ask them for specifics, so we just have to be more specific and see, where we want them to put their money.
Right. And I certainly appreciate you, because you've played a role in several of our community take-backs. We've done community take-backs, or what we deem positive loitering events that have been in places and hot spots along 51st in Indiana, 51st in Calumet. And so I really appreciate your help and support that you've lent towards those events that we've impacted to try to educate communities. So listen, I don't think that residents, because you have some bad actors, and people sometimes are forced into certain situations, I just think there are more good people in communities than there are bad, right?
Absolutely.
And I just think that the good folks should get involved. They should join like-minded organizations. They should talk to their neighbors, and they should then talk to their elected officials. They should talk to pastors and community leaders that are involved in those communities, and they should form collaborations and become force for change in those neighborhoods. I just don't think you should shy away and go in your house and call away.
And we need to mention Saucony's Caranjas, Brownsville Abundance, the Mott Group. Twice a month, they're cleaning up 51st and Calumet. They're cleaning up 51st and Prairie. You all can contact myself if you want to get involved in any of the projects that are going on, including Obadeli's projects, so that people know that we have to be proactive and without prejudice. We know our community is changing, and we got the new homeowners and condo owners and everything else is going in. But we don't want them to feel that because we have low-income people there too, that we all can't work together, and that everything that happens in the community is the cause of certain groups of people. Because that's
Sandra,
not true.
we got 20 seconds. Give a number how you can be reached.
You can reach me at 773-285-3401, Monday through Fridays,
Give the
9
number
to
again.
5. 773-285-3401. Please call me if you need any assistance, be it community or business. We're a resource center for you all.
And you can reach us at the Grand Boulevard Prevention Services at gbps2016@gmail.com. Again, gbps2016@gmail.com, or by phone at 312-588-3868. Again, 312-588-3868. And in the coming weeks, we'll be sharing some exciting news about Grand Boulevard and new improved ways to serve the community. But again, between now and next week, you've been watching Grand Boulevard Community Service. I want to thank my guest, Sandra Bivens, and thank CAN TV, Chicago Access TV, for allowing us to be here. Between now and next week, God bless. Take care.